Okay folks, today I've got the Prospect Lake Woolly Bugger for you. I first saw this published in the book Contemporary Fly Patterns of British Columbia, compiled by Art Lindgren. This particular pattern was submitted by Barry Stokes, who's the manager of Islander Reels. And great pattern, first developed I guess for Prospect Lake on southern Vancouver Island, but Barry's notes in the book explain that it's also been an extremely useful pattern in the interior for his trips there. So I'm anchoring my 6/0 thread. I've made some minor changes to this pattern because of the materials some of the materials, the original materials I didn't have. So this is a using what you've got kind of pattern. And so I've changed a little bit of the chenille, that was all. I didn't have the glow bright, so I've mixed and mingled some other things to get the same effect. And I'm also doing it on a number 10 hook here. So I've anchored my 6/0 black tying thread in here, and I'm coming in with some woolly bugger marabou olive in olive I got from Togen's, and I'm going to pinch off about 3/4 of an inch to an inch of that. And I like tying it in up the hook shank like this, even though I'm tying in a tail, to prevent a whole bunch of bulk from building up down here toward the tie-in point. So I like to get a more even body this way, I find, and I'll tie it in up here. Now what I'm doing here now is I'm putting some slight tension on the marabou and pulling it my way and up as I wrap toward the tail. That prevents this marabou from being forced to roll over the hook there by the tension of the thread. So I'm just a slight tension towards me and up, and I go back toward the barb of the hook here. And once I get there, I throw in about 3 wraps behind the marabou just to cock that tail up a little bit. You can see it's already done that. 1 wrap and 2, and then a 3rd wrap, and that just brings that tail up in a nice little angle there. I'm going to give the tag ends here a bit of a haircut so there's not too much bulk up here, and we'll tidy that front end of the hook up. Okay. Now the first thing to come in is the crystal chenille that I'm using, and I'm just looking for where I left that. There it is. And I'm using this crystal chenille. Now I'm using crystal chenille as well as regular woolly chenille. And the woolly chenille will be the underbody, and this will be the overbody and the reinforcement for the hackle. So I'm going to cut off a length of that. This is where the improvisation comes in, starts to come in a little bit. We'll get that tied in there. A little bit of crystal chenille. This adds the flash to the body. Oh, actually, I've got a backup. I missed something. I'm going to take that out. The flashaboo for the tail goes alongside the tail. Little length of flashaboo here. Whoops, drop that. I mean, I could edit all this out, but I'm going to leave it just to show you that, yeah, we're all human. So a length of flashaboo. This is a Kelly green color. I think that's the name of it. I can't see the name due to the way the packaging was put together, but it's flashaboo 6903 if you're looking for it in this Kelly green color. So I've got a length going down that side, and I'm just pulling this length down my side and wrapping that in there, and then cutting it off about the length of the tail. So I've got 1 length on each side there, nice and symmetrical. Next comes in our crystal chenille. Got ahead of myself there, and give that a couple of wraps to secure it, and then our fuzzy chenille, our standard fuzzy bear chenille, like fuzzy bear caterpillar or whatever it is, eh? And we'll I stripped the end of it. Actually, getting ahead of myself again here. I've got to come in with my grizzly hackle. There you go, more than once in one video. I could show this to my grandkids. See, look, Grandpa's getting senile. So what I'm going to do here is I'm taking my grizzly hackle, a woolly bugger kind of grizzly hackle, is quite woolly, and I'm stripping back the fibers to expose the tip of the feather, and then on 1/2 I'm going to tear off the fibers for about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, there, about there. Because I want less fibers toward the tail than I want toward the front. And on the front they can have the full complement of the hackle fibers, but toward the rear I want fewer of them, a little more sparse back there. Okay, so now I've got that tied in there. I'm just going to untangle my crystal chenille here. I should put it in the holder back here. And now some people will leave this tip of the grizzly hackle there. I like to cut it out. It's a habit of mine, but you know, with all the marabou it's lost back there, it's probably not very visible anyway. Now that I've got it in there, I'm going to pull it back and anchor it with a couple of wraps. Now comes in the fuzzy bear chenille, and I've stripped the ends of it there, so I've got a tie-in point. And we'll get that tied in there. I'm not totally senile yet. I'm still catching myself. When I stop catching myself, then we're all in trouble. Okay, so just bringing the thread up there just short of the eye of the hook. Now I'm bringing my fuzzy chenille forward first in nice even wraps. And we get that up to the thread there and capture that with a turn or two of thread before cutting it off. Now I'm bringing my hackle forward. This is the palm ring of the grizzly hackle, and we palm that forward. You see it's a little more sparse toward the tail. Now we get really fuzzy up toward the front. Now Barry did this, he said in the instructions, with a few extra wraps toward the front of the hook, and I've just done it by sparsing out the tail a little bit and leaving the front half full. And then we're going to get that tag end of that grizzly hackle cut off, keeping my thread out of the way, not cutting my thread. I'm going to pull everything back here, just give a few wraps to start the head, not too many yet, because I've got this sparkle chenille to bring forward. Now what I've found to be very effective, now as you're bringing this forward, it's going to reinforce the hackle. That's one of the points of it. But it can also catch a lot of those hackle fibers. So I'm just using my bodkin to very lightly comb those forward as I counterwind this and spiral it forward up the fly. And I don't want to catch too many, so I just keep flicking those forward with my bodkin. Now it's a bit fussy, yes, I agree, but when you gotta make do and use what you've got, put up with a little extra work to achieve the same result. So I'm just flicking those fibers forward, just keeping them out of the way of that crystal chenille, and that's going to do a good job with the counterwinding there of reinforcing the strength of the grizzly hackle on the body here, the palmered grizzly hackle. And it takes a little bit of time just to carefully flick those forward as you run the crystal chenille up the body. Great little pattern. Barry's got some great patterns in that book. Lots of them saltwater patterns for coho and sea run cutthroat, which is one of his particular favorites to go after. But this one was developed for freshwater and has been a dandy ever since. There we go. We're letting those fibers loose as we bring that crystal chenille forward. I hope Barry approves of this adaptation. If not, he can let me know. I'd be glad to hear from him. And we're going to wrap that off there and cut off that crystal chenille now that we've achieved reaching the front end of the hook. Now again, I'm just going to pull everything back with my thumb and forefinger slightly moistened, finish off this head, and we'll give it a bit of Sally Hansen's or your favorite head cement, whichever you have on hand. Just going to touch that head there with a drop of Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails and give it a wet finish. There you go, the Prospect Lake Woolly Bugger, the PLWB as it's called in the book for short. Dandy pattern. Of course, you can weight this thing. You can put some lead under that chenille or put a bead, or brass or tungsten bead at the head there. I'm just going to shorten this tail just to the length of the flashabou on there, just a little bit. There we go. Great pattern, freshwater lakes on the island and in the interior. the Prospect Lake Woolly Bugger. Hope you enjoyed tying that pattern, and I'm wishing you all the best of luck with it on the water. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. You know it's free. I enjoy bringing these videos to you, and it really helps me on the algorithms if you hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.